Let's rise, and Candy, can you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend the meetings of public bodies of which any business excuse me, affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Fort Lee Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published on January 13th, 2022 and January 14th, 2022, and posted on the district website at www.flboe.com, published in the board's designated online media outlet, The Record and the Star Ledger, filed with the clerk of the Borough of Fort Lee, and mailed to all persons of any who have requested said notice. Please be advised that this meeting is being taped and may be broadcasted on local TV and the district's website at a future date. The Open Public Meeting Act allows for remote participation at board meetings and defines the word meeting as any gathering, whether corporal or by means of communication equipment, which is attended by or open to all of the members of a public body, held with the intent on the part of the members of the body present to discuss or act as a unit upon the specific public business of that body. May we have roll call, please?
Ms. Joe. Here. Ms. Curry.
Here.
Ms. Kim. Here. Ms. Morrell.
Here.
Ms. Richter. Here. Ms. Ramba.
Here.
Mr. Rubino.
Here.
Ms. Stasu. Here. Ms. Colback.
Here.
We have 4.
The board will be convening to executive session to discuss legal, personnel, and other confidential matters. The board will reconvene into public session at approximately 7:30 p.m. tonight. May I have a motion to go into executive session?
Motion.
Motion Morel, second.
Stassi.
Second Stasu. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are now welcome back. Candy, can you lead us in the pledge?
Sure.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Fort Lee Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published on January 13th, 2022 and January 14th, 2022, and posted on the district website at www.flboe.com, published in the board's designated online newspaper, The Record and the Star Ledger, filed with the clerk of the Borough of Fort Lee, and mailed to all persons, if any, who have requested said notice. Please be advised that this meeting is being taped and may be broadcasted on local TV and the district's website at a future date. The Open Public Meeting Act allows for remote participation at board meetings and defines the word meeting as any gathering, whether corporal or by means of communication equipment, which is attended by or open to all of the members of a public body, held with the intent on the part of the members of the body present to discuss or act as a unit upon the specific public business of that body. May we please have roll call?
Ms. Joe. Here. Ms. Curry. Here. Ms. Kim. Here. Ms. Morrell. Here. Ms. Richter. Here. Ms. Ramba. Here. Mr. Rubino.
Here.
Ms. Stasu. Here. Ms. Colback.
Here.
You have 4.
The board convened executive session tonight at 6:30 p.m. to discuss legal, personnel, and other confidential matters. We'll start tonight with the superintendent's report. Mr. Kravitz, I turn it over to you.
Now I think
This evening, we're going to be discussing the superintendent's report, the Fort Lee school budget for next year, for the 22-23 school year. With me, we'll be doing it Ms. Taylor, our RBA, and also Ms. Baker will add some components of it. So as we look at the screen screen that we're going to present tonight is the budget preparation.
I guess I didn't bring it up.
So just while Ms. Taylor's getting everything ready, I'll talk about a little bit of the presentation. First thing first, we meet with our principals, supervisors, and directors. That usually takes place in December. We start to ask them the question, what do you need? What will make you more successful? With a real center on education and student learning. That's what the goals are. Have always been, we want to see academic success for our students. We want the whole child educated. We want them to be part of a great learning community. So we listen to the review of the program proposals, the staffing needs, and also capital requests. So we address things like, which I've heard since I've been here, air conditioning. We talk about facilities. We talk about how we can be innovative with what we have in our capital reserves. And you might have heard over the last several meetings, they've talked about capital reserves and what's left. And we want to use that as we renovate our buildings and make them even better. Then we go through the review of our budget with all the committees. And then tonight is our budget approval by the Board of Education. That is the overarching budget, right? So between now and April 25th, there will be some tweaks in our budget as we see different things that may come up or we can adjust. But the numbers, just to be clear, the numbers stay the same. After tonight, by the 28th of March, we will be submitting this budget to our county superintendent for review. And most of the time they do make some comments and they'll say, make sure we see in this budget how your English language learning standards are met, or how your ELL, English language learners what programs are special to this budget. So they might ask us those questions and we'll create the narrative, explain what we do, and then usually there might be a follow-up, but most of the time they're approved. And then of course the final budget, as I stated, will be a special meeting on April 25th for the final budget. The next slide is the revenue source. Ms. Taylor.
So revenue sources. The major revenue source for the district is tax levy. Our tax levy projection for the 22-23 year is $70,967,334, and that's an increase of 2%. You may remember in the past we have been afforded different enrollment waivers and healthcare waivers, which actually allowed our tax levy to be above 2%. The community has been very, very supportive of the increases in taxes above 2%. This year, there are no enrollment waivers or healthcare waivers that we can take advantage of, so we are proposing raising the tax levy at 2%. The other revenues worth mentioning, the revenue in lieu of taxes, we're very excited to partner with the town. Revenue in lieu of taxes or pilot funding are monies from the town that they are not mandated to give to us. So when developers come into town and breaks are given to those developers in order to encourage development, funds are received, and we are anticipating $383,000 worth of additional aid from the town. Excited about that. Surplus used as revenue. So this is budgeted fund balance. We are planning to supplement our other revenue sources with $1,260,742 of budgeted fund balance or surplus. As you may remember, our undesignated or unassigned fund balance is up to 4% this year. Thankfully, for 2021, 22, as well as the previous year. And this had a lot to do with COVID and a lot of schools having a lot of surplus. State aid has increased this year by around $800,000. Thankfully, we are still an underfunded district as it relates to the school funding formula. As you may know, S2 seeks to right that ship. So the governor is taking away from schools who are overfunded and seeking to give to those who have not achieved the full funding formula. So we're also excited about that. Extraordinary aid, we're anticipating $985,000. And extraordinary aid is aid that we receive actually in July of the following year. Extraordinary aid is based on special education costs that exceed $40,000. It's an application that our Director of Special Services completes for us. We're excited because since she's been here, we've been identifying lots of additional costs that we hadn't previously been applying for, and we are now receiving. Miscellaneous revenue, tuition, capital reserve withdrawal. This is a big number this year, and we'll talk more at a later slide about which projects we're planning to do. But we're planning to do $3,627,450 worth of capital reserve withdrawals. And we're pretty proud of the work we've been doing as it relates to our facilities. So we'll talk about that. And I have Jack here, he'll share, he's our acting buildings and grounds manager. He'll share a little bit about that as well. Our city revenue, ESEA, IDEA, and state entitlements, so those are our federal grants. ESSER 2 we budgeted for last year. We're not budgeting for that, or ARP ESSER because they're already in the budget. So there are no new funds. If there were new ESSER funds, we would be budgeting for them, but there are no new federal funds from an ESSER perspective. Debt service balance is appropriated. This is money that's actually called like debt service fund balance. This number is actually tax relief. So, and it's born out of the refunding. You guys may remember we refunded the bonds a couple of years ago. Actually, during COVID, we refunded the bonds. So we issue bonds, we're paying interest on those bonds, we refunded them, or in the mortgage world, we refinanced. And so this fund balance is required to be tax relief. So that will supplement the tax levy, the 3.734 in debt service tax levy, in addition to the debt service aid that we will receive from the state. And that rounds out our revenue sources, totaling a budget of $87,941,746. Want to talk about state aid?
Well, I'm just going to say I'm very happy that we're receiving more money, and as Ms. Taylor has alluded to, a lot of the districts surrounding us are receiving more and more state aid as there's a redefining of who's getting more and how that's working. And I think importantly, it gives a great opportunity with that extra money that we will be receiving just shy of $800,000 to really, again, bring in some great things as we move forward. And you can see from this chart, there's a lot of trend. And the trend is, yes, that we should be getting more and more as we go through this. Yes, that. Appropriations.
This is a summary slide that kind of talks generally about sort of our current expense and capital expense. The current expense plus the capital expense is what we call our general operating revenue. The capital expense includes, the majority of that is our capital reserve withdrawal. Special revenue, those are our federal grants managed by our Assistant Superintendent, Ms. Diane Baker. And debt service is the money that we will need to pay in principal and interest for the bonds that we've issued. Again, for a total budget of $87.9 million, or close to $88 million, and that's a change year over year of about 3.09%.
So you'll see in some of our program budget comparisons, they're very similar from year to year. There are slight increases in employee benefits and special education costs, as well as out-of-district placement and regular programming. Well, this reflects some of the programs we're trying to build and also add to our other programs. Some of it is funded actually from grants, but this is just to show you that we are increasing our regular program.
And the majority of the budget, of course, is salary and expenses. So when we say regular programs, Diane asked me, she was like, what's that big number? That's not the curriculum budget. No, that's not her curriculum budget. That's actually regular instruction. So that's teachers, that's K to 12, pre-K to 12 salaries for the most part.
We'd love for it to be the curriculum budget.
Salaries and benefits represented here by regular program and employee benefits tend to be the lion's share of a budget. And here's a slide that most community members want to see in a budget. The annual tax impact, the annual tax increase. So I spent the better of the weekend identifying what this tax impact was, as well as doing some reasonability checks. So I called a couple of taxpayers to talk about what their taxes are, to confirm that our numbers are in line with what they've been paying. Now what you're seeing here is only the school tax levy. Your taxes, your property taxes include municipality, county, open space, etc. So what you're seeing here is just the impact from your school taxes. The assessed value which we receive from the town of an average home is $475,200. And the net valuation is actually going down, which surprised me. But the net valuation taxable, which is the property value of all the properties here in Fort Lee, has gone down a bit since 21-22, which also is a factor in why the property tax increase is up 133.56 versus last year 81.85. So the annual tax impact based on this budget is 2.73%.
So now we're looking at, some of the increases we're seeing in our budget for next year, including the addition of 3 teachers. Looking at 2 administrators, as we want to see oversight, and also academics, we're looking at data. We want to make sure we're tracking our students well with data. We want to make sure data drives our decisions, because the better we are informed with that, we can actually help ease the concerns for parents and teachers and administrators, fellow administrators. We're looking to add 1 secretarial position in our district and 1 technology person in our district as well. These are our staffing needs that we've identified.
Okay, capital reserves. So I'm gonna ask Jack to come on up. But the capital reserve projects, this is sort of the detail of that number I mentioned earlier. And we are planning $3.6 million in capital reserve projects. And I'll let Jack talk a little bit about what those projects are.
Is this on? Hello? Sorry. The capital reserve projects totaling $3.6 million approximately consist of, we've gone into a program that we want to take at least 2 schools every year and renovate bathrooms. We're going to look to do it in School 1 in the Whiteman building, and we're going to look to do it in School 3 in the old section, in the old section in the back. Regarding energy recovery, besides heating, air conditioning, everything, ventilation, in light of COVID and other issues, we're going into to do ventilation, what are called ERVs, which are ventilating units, which are going to do away with our univents on the side of the classrooms. And this is in conjunction with the VRF projects that we've done at schools 1 and 3. And because of the cost of this year, schools, these were alternate number 2s that we did not do, but we did put in the VRF, and we plan on doing this for this coming 22-23 school year.
And Jack, talk a little bit about why we did not do the alternate.
It was the cost. The cost of ERVs and VRFs have gone out of sight. Our architect had originally projected about $30,000 a classroom. The price, based on the bids and their experience in the marketplace, is already up to about $45,000, $50,000 a classroom.
And what kind of time frame is that, Jack? 30 to 55?
A year. Within a year. It has to do with basically supply, and everybody, because of ESSA funds and government help and everything like that, mostly a ton of the districts in Bergen County are all doing VRF, air conditioning and heating projects. So there's also, besides being a supply issue, there's also a demand issue.
And ERVs and HVAC, we're basically talking about air conditioning units. And the benefit, I think, of ERVs, and Jack, help me out if I get out of my lane, the energy recovery ventilation, it kind of takes cool air. So say in one section of the building, there's cool air needed, and there's too much heat on this side. It actually it exchanges the hot air and brings it to where it is needed, or if the temperature, someone's turning up the thermostat. So it's an actually more energy efficient way to heat and ventilate buildings.
Right now, the univents that we have on the side of the classrooms, okay, they work, they have motors, they break down, and really there's no variation. You know, the thermostat sets it up and it just heats. This one, it'll go from one side of the room, let's say on the east side of school number one, facing the sun in the morning, which is, hot and everything. And the other side, on the west side of school one, it'll adjust, where it'll take the heat from, this side and bring it out to the west side. And cooling works the same way, based on the set points.
So Jack, the ERVs that you're talking about provide air conditioning too?
It is complementary to the air conditioning. It's the ventilation. The air conditioning, the VRFs are the air conditioning. That's variable refrigerant flows. That's the big thing. We're not putting these big
Not
chillers.
doing that aspect of it.
We did that already.
We did that.
We're
That's
doing
done.
that this year.
And again, these were alternate number twos when we went to bid. We awarded base bid plus alternate number one, but alternate number two was, we didn't have basically the funds to handle that, so we decided to do it in this coming fiscal year, in this coming fiscal year. The other thing is, last year we bought new drapes for the high school, new stage curtain. We went away from the yellow color that we had for years, and we went with the burgundy color, and now we're looking to change the seats out. This is strictly reupholster the seats on this thing. It's no structural issues. We're not pulling up any of the framing or anything. It's a reupholstered job. Lauren Lynn and already looked at some of the colors. We're going to match it a little differently this year. And this is basically a summer job. Because what happened with the colors we picked 7 years ago, 8 years ago, after the first week, the coffee spills, pen marks, and everything. And they started wearing out. But
You're picking black, right?
it's a charcoal, a real dark color to complement the burgundy drapes and stage curtain.
As long as
How about
it's very
orange?
dark.
Orange and black.
I mean, isn't that the wide
But
burgundy?
we already have the burgundy with a match, the burgundy drapes and stage curtain. You go orange, black is more like,
Black.
yeah.
Just get the black.
I
That's
think
what
the
we're talking
sense is we want people to feel like they're entering the Oscars. And so the orange and black wouldn't really deliver that.
Well, that is our color.
But it's such a nice venue. And we're gonna look at that. And there's other things down the road we're gonna look at also is lighting and stage lighting and sound systems and everything like
And they're
that.
also
So we're gonna-
washable, right?
Excuse me?
It's also gonna be washable, so you get stains
Oh,
out.
yeah, I would still, yeah, we'll put I think they use some kind of a Scotch guard that they put on it. And the last item here is the high school media center restructuring. We ran into an issue with the high school media center. We only have one means of egress, okay? The fire code says if you put more than 49 people, you have to have two means of egress. So it became an opportunity to really look at a different aspect in terms of the educational end of it. I'm looking at it from the construction end of it. Basically, we're gonna redo the media center. I guess we're gonna have vocational rooms, make a room in the middle. Also, maybe go toward a cyber library instead of a full strength, library. So those are basically the projects that we have in mind.
One question for you, Jack, a follow-up question. In light of COVID, how do those VRFs that we're installing as well as the ERBs, how do they work as it relates to filtration systems and?
They're very high-tech type filtration systems. We have ultraviolet. We already have ultraviolet filtration units in the ductwork throughout all the schools. That was done. But in terms of COVID, it's going to be state of the art, and that's the way everybody's going. And there'll be filter changes. I mean, we used to do filters twice a year. We're going to be doing them 4 times a year, or as needed. So it all kind of measures together. But COVID was an impact, and it was a costly impact.
I go back one more to that, just the media center, just to discuss a couple other things that are.
Thank you, Jack.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you, very informative.
Key component to also that Fort Lee High School Media Center, involved in that also is creating a program for 18 to 21-year-old special needs students. We continue to send them out of district. That costs us some amount of money. We have the ability with this renovation to bring them back into the fold. So in addition to renovating a library, in addition to creating a makerspace, and in addition now bringing in our special needs students, and we have the egress concern that is all being addressed in one component of the high school, which long-term, if we are able to attract our students back to Fort Lee High School, rather than going to any other programs that are currently high-profile programs like Technology High School or the Tech, or even some of the engineering programs or vocational, we start to bring those students, plus the 18 to 21-year-old students, over a period of 3 to 4 years, we could actually recoup that money, just to make some clear.
I'd like to know, how come we're not focused on the air conditioning first? Like, it says 2022 to 23, why isn't that being done like this year? Like for the few spaces in the district that still do not have AC, like certain classrooms in the middle school, I believe the high school, certain classes.
I think
So this year there were a couple of projects that we did do this year. Where are they, Jack? The air conditioning projects this year.
Well, where we have not touched the air conditioning is at the middle school,
Right.
the academic wing, and also the gym at the middle school.
So why the delay on that? I mean, I feel like that should have been a priority.
Okay, and other schools, the other school is high school, I'm sorry. The high school, again, we would look to air condition the small gym and the East gym, and also there's 5 high school will be, with any kind of luck and we get the supplies in and everything, should be ready, hopefully, be ready to go sometime toward the end of the summer or sometime during the fall. But again,
Wait, Jack, all of the high school that remains to be done, the east wing, the gym, and I think you started to say 5 classrooms.
there are 5
Is in the pipeline to be done this year?
not in 22, 23, but it could be in the pipeline for 23, 24.
Well, I think it should have been.
Well, actually, could I just comment real quick? So,
Now, it
just regarding the AC, I know that since I've been on the board, that was always something that parents have brought to the board, starting from 2017, 18. And the members who are here with me, we remember Amy Cotang and Sarah Fiction making their wonderful crafts and everything like that. Yeah, so I know that this AC, it's a relief to see it in this appropriation, or in that spreadsheet actually, because it's been in the works since 2018, I believe. I think with COVID, there was actually a really big delay because our architects had actually submitted stuff to the state, but there was nobody to do any work. So there's a process to get the approvals, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Keisha, Diane, and Rob, but I recall, so it's not so easy, like, all right, so this is a job order, you gotta get it done now. Like, we have to have the architects draw up the plan, submit it to the state, get it approved, and then go out for RFPs and everything like that. And that's why this is 5 years in the making, actually.
Well, I don't buy that at all.
Can you,
Sorry.
I mean, all of our projects had to go to the state, and because of COVID, there was a delay.
Right.
So our existing, have we got, I just kind of want to drill down on it. We have the issue is, we have a very large capital reserve, and I don't think anyone wants to spend it to zero, but we've got a huge cushion, and we have a big need, and the need has existed for a long time. The middle school, all academic areas don't have air conditioning, yet soon, the weather is already at 70. And I think the real question is, if there's a delay in Trenton with getting something approved, well, then we're in the pipeline, but none of this has gone out for RFP, none of this is projected for the next year, and it's not in an existing pipeline. And so why, when we have the resources, and Jack is talking about, ERVs, which I understand is not the air conditioning component, but with inflation and everything, they went from 30 to 45. So the cost is not going to come down, and we have money in the bank that only earns pennies on the dollar for interest. Why aren't we looking to move ahead regularly each year to complete the air conditioning?
I think that's on us,
So,
right?
yeah, I would say, if we want to reprioritize projects, that is something that the board can do. These are the projects that you see, are the projects that the architect, Jack, superintendent, the administration.
So I'm raising it, I've raised it in committee, I would love to
We've
see
raised it many times.
an air conditioning project. We need to continue to chip away at that need in the district, it's no surprise.
Okay.
I'm raising it here again.
Okay, so I would request respectfully that the preliminary budget is due on Monday. So I hope that you will approve the preliminary budget, and we can look to change this for the final approval, which will be on April 25th.
So the capital reserve elements of this budget can be substantially increased between the preliminary, if we approve it tonight, and the final on April 25th? Because I heard someone say the numbers can't change, the ultimate numbers can't change, but we can rejigger internal. I don't understand it, but tell me.
So the numbers can change. The numbers can change. We've been fortunate here in Fort Lee where our preliminary budget has actually been the budget that we have finalized. And so they've never, since I've been here for 6 years, that we've never changed it. But you absolutely can change the budget. It takes a lot of work because once you start changing numbers, then I gotta go back in that big spreadsheet I showed you, do all that stuff and do run edit checks again. So there's a time element. But you absolutely, and Dave, you correct me if I'm wrong, if you know anything about the submission of the budget, you
So
know.
when would it be due?
But you can absolutely change, you know. Now, I would say, it sounds like, Paul, you're talking about adding to what's there. I would caution you and say that, you know, there's a capacity issue too. Like, we can't do $10 million worth of projects because we only got one buildings and grounds person, one set of architects, so there's a time thing, and most of these projects are done in the summer, where everybody's competing for bidders, et cetera. So I don't know if you would want to maybe swap out something and then add, you know, maybe take something out and then add those air conditioning projects, but you absolutely can make changes for the final budget.
There's no proposed project that would be ongoing at the middle school though, correct? As I look at the 2022, 2023 proposed capital reserve projects, none of them would be taking place at the middle school, so there wouldn't be that capacity issue there.
Oh, I mean, capacity issue to manage the project, to draw up the plans. But I mean, we can try it.
Priority.
So I just have to, forgetting the budget.
You're
I
talking
think it's
about-
right, forgetting,
When
sorry, my bad. No. So forgetting the budget, as it is right now, all I'm asking is, how much do we have in capital reserve right now? Right now,
14
as of last year's budget, how much do we have in it?
14 million.
We have 14
I don't
million.
know, let's wait for the more formal answer.
The auditor is here. He's like, oh.
Right, I wanna know how much we have in capital reserve. Not including this budget.
So as of June 30, 21, you had $13.5 million.
13 million.
But in your 21, 22 budget, you utilized 3.3 million.
So we have 11 million.
No, we also
Right.
added in June to replenish.
I'm not asking what we
At June 30, 21, you had 13.5 million. From that, in this budget that you're in, you utilized, let's say, 3.5 million. So you're 10.
From this budget.
From the 10th.
From this
The
budget.
current budget.
From the
of
current,
2022,
not the one that's
Not the one being
preliminary.
proposed.
So, like I said, so if you take 4 million away from 14, that's 11, am I wrong?
Let's say 10.
Okay, that's 11 million.
Let's say 10 million.
How much, 10 million, I'm good with that, 10 million. Jack, how much does it cost to do the air conditioning
At the middle school,
at where we have to do it?
At the middle school.
At the middle school, good.
I think you're gonna look at somewhere around $2 million.
Okay, so even at $3 million, we would still have 7 million in the capital reserve, correct? Okay, just wanted to know. I thought we were gonna go down to 0. I wasn't quite sure. So I wanted to make sure that the monies that we were gonna use, that we can use, that capital reserve is set aside for, that we would have ample funds to use it.
This has
Thank
been
you.
being discussed since like my daughter was in kindergarten, I just, it
Okay,
needs to be a
I'm
part
just
of.
wondering why, when we have so much money, we're not.
Okay, Candy, go.
Jack, we back to, I guess, at 18, you were talking about, when we started talking about the air conditioning, and when we said we weren't able to do it at the time, weren't the numbers like 3-point-something million, because we were saying we needed $8 million to do 2 of the schools, does anybody remember that? We were saying it was so high, so now it's on
It
the.
was about $7 million.
Right.
If I remember, that was the money we, had proposed, or the architects proposed.
That was to do, when we, so we didn't have the money at the time.
That was supposed to be part of the referendum.
Right.
Okay. But it comes out that VRF is it's expensive now, but it's a cheaper
Right, but
alternative
it's not
than to
the air
put.
conditioning that we were talking about.
That's right.
It's just
We were looking at that time to put air conditioning from A to Z in the building.
Okay, I
Not-
just remember
not-
different
Right.
numbers, that's
not
why.
12
So
rooms
just
here, or
piggybacking
6
off
rooms.
of what Candy said, how many years ago were we talking that it was 3-point-something in our capital reserve? How many years ago was that?
Trying to
Okay, but he gave us a number,
Okay.
he gave us a number to do the middle school, and the numbers were high because we hadn't even started any
Okay.
area.
But things have gone up.
But for the-
What I'm saying is
This is
that-
not total air conditioning though.
right,
So may I make
There's
this?
no air conditioning here.
okay,
Right,
what
there
I'm
was
saying is we
no-
have enough to do it.
this-
We don't have to add or take or transfer.
Okay.
We have.
Ms. Koveth, maybe we could get a actual quote from the architect
Yeah.
and then submit it to the board by this week. And that way the board can then, we can have it.
If that kind of change of that magnitude could be made, I think it would be terrific.
Then
People
let's
can
get
react
let's
to
get a quote, we'll reach out to the architects tomorrow morning, get them a rough idea, we'll send it out to the board, and then we'll contact you individually, so there's no question about that, and if every consensus is, then Ms. Taylor, the business office, and myself, Ms. Baker, will make ourselves available to take the question, and let's go through that.
And that, we could vote on that on April 25th, all right?
Correct, but we want to keep everybody informed, so we'll let everybody know what the cost would be, and so I just want to be clear though, so are we looking at just the middle school air conditioning, or we're looking for, because each one has a different facet to it?
Well, I think we should move forward with, start with one, and at the most we can do at a capacity.
Well, that's what, I think that's the question, right? So if you're talking, I just don't want to sit here on April 24th or 25th and say, well, why couldn't we do the high school as well?
I think you get us options.
Right, why don't you
Get
get
us
us both?
Right,
options.
so we'll
Get
get
us
you,
lists.
we'll get you,
Good answer.
I guess we'll get you both quotes, and then the decision can be made. That way the decision would be which one, so on the 25th would be ready.
Exactly, it could be if you're doing major renovations at the high school anyway, it makes sense to have, to do it all, but maybe it's too much, I don't know.
Right, and I will tell you, so in the comments, and if anyone saw out there, the posting from the regional budget, with them this slide. I know that there is extra money that concerns regarding inflation and extra costs that have been added to these numbers, just to make sure that they're covered. That's a concern for a lot of people.
So if this wasn't approved, I'm sorry, Keisha, this would delay our project going forward to start the AC. Can you explain?
If the preliminary budget is not approved tonight, if the preliminary budget is not approved tonight, we will need to schedule a special meeting this week so that we can approve a budget and submit the preliminary to the county on Monday.
Would that include our new?
Yes, it could, yes. Yes, or you can approve tonight and then we can change it for the final on the 25th. Keep in mind though, these projects, as Jack has alluded to, there's a process. So we send stuff down to the state, then we go out, draw plans. So, adding these projects makes sense, but they probably won't take place till the following summer by the time all this happens. But to your point, they'd be in the queue.
It's because of COVID over the years, and this year with the supply issues and everything, it seems to be like a 12-month lag. By the time you get it approved and everything like that, and then you put it into action. And, we have a 10-week summer window. Sometimes that's not just possible. And the other thing is, it's a very, very competitive market right now. And try to get some good prices is gonna be difficult.
No, and it's not against you, I just wanted to know for myself how we could go.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, I think you're
But
doing great.
but it's gonna be about, if we're gonna approve a budget in April 25th, I don't think it'll be, you're not gonna get that middle school air conditioning in before September 1st.
But it's in the queue.
Yeah,
And the lag, Jack, would apply equally to all
On
these
everything.
projects that were just
Right.
coming up that are on the chart. So we're,
the only thing you're not gonna see the lag on is on the auditorium seating.
okay. Wall Street,
Unless we pick the color, that's gonna be the
And I think the bathrooms,
Probably 2 meetings on that.
I think the bathrooms are a pretty good bet to be done during the summer.
Okay, just a couple of other questions, Keisha. On the annual tax impact, I hate taxes, I don't try to understand them. The bottom line of yours says if we're seeing an impact of 2.73. And there's the asterisk, which says that applies to our general fund balance, got it. We're raising 2%, and then I don't understand how the 2% goes to 2.73.
So the tax impact is a function of net valuation of the property values of the home. So one of the things that stuck out to me for 22-23, from which I received from the town, is the net tax valuation has decreased. So that on that slide, 6,632 million versus 21-22 was 667. So
The ratables went down.
ratables are going down, so it's spread amongst less.
Okay, and then on the ESSER two funds, since we're not projecting any as revenues this year, did we spend all the ESSER two that we have? So why wouldn't whatever we have left be shown as revenues this year? Because it's money that we have available that we haven't spent.
So when you prepare a budget, you actually are budgeting only for new monies. So our ESSER monies, which I think we had like 3.6 in our ESSER, you don't see those either. But what you'll see once you start looking at the board secretary reports next year, you will see that they are appropriated. But they would be in a what's called a year-to-date transfer amount. So in other words, they're not original monies for the 22-23 budget. So you will see those monies. We are still spending those monies, and they are earmarked for programs, summer programs, etc. And that's also how we balance this budget. There were a couple of things that Robert identified with Ms. Baker that we could use our ESSER funds for. They were allowable expenses, so we took them out of the general fund and put them there. So you're accurate that you don't see those expenses in this budget because the budget is only for new sources of revenue. You will see that information in the financials starting July.
And one, I promise, last question. Is capital reserve withdrawal, which is on your revenue sources, the same as capital expense? The numbers
Well,
are just different,
yes.
like 170,000, and so why under appropriations are the numbers not the same?
There are a few other items in the capital expense, which includes, one is a debt assessment that we have every year, $17,534. Is that right, Irene? I think it's 17,000. And then there are other capital expenses. So I think if we are, I don't remember, Jack, did we appropriate any? So the difference between a supply and equipment, anything over $2,000, you appropriate in capital. So there's some other things,
Okay.
but the majority of it is capital withdrawal, and the other things are things that are
Seems to
classified.
be the bulk. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
So,
Anyone else have questions?
A couple more slides, actually.
Oh. So,
So I'll speak about how our budget's going to support curriculum and instruction. And so the 22-23 budget is going to support all of our existing academic and extracurricular programs, as well as enhancing those programs. And it will also support new programs, such as new courses at the high school, the new academies that Mr. Kravitz has been discussing. It will continue to support all of our gifted and talented programs, our honors courses. It supports, as Ms. Taylor mentioned earlier, all of our instruction, all of our staffing, so all of our teachers and the contractual obligations that come along with our staffing. It also reflects the increased costs in special education, as well as out-of-district placement and all the related services that have to be provided to our students. And it's also primarily going to support a lot of our new curriculum revisions that have to take place for a number of content areas such as social studies, visual and performing arts, physical education and comprehensive health, world language, and a number of mandates. The newest one to support the teaching of the history and contributions of Asian American Pacific Islanders. And also it will support a number of professional development opportunities. Now, a number of our programs will also be supported by grant funding, such as summer programs that we're planning, such as Mr. Kravitz mentioned, taking a closer look at data and really building on our data management system. And it will also support a number of our software programs that we will have to renew, such as IXL, our STAR 360 benchmark assessment. So primarily that's what our curriculum department budget will cover.
So this is an interesting slide that actually was tolerated today, which I'm very happy about by sharing it. When you do the comparison to what we spend, the cost per pupil spending, you'll see where Fort Lee is and compared to the other districts. And since about the 178th day here approximately, I've really kind of stressed that we want to be the leaders in Bourbon County. And we are quite a large district, over 4,000 students. But when we look at what we spend and where we want to be in comparison to other districts, I think we need to start to look at that conversation and have that conversation and really focus on academics. And that's what I keep stressing a lot about, the data. What does the data reflect? How much are we spending and what's the return on our investment? Where are we in comparison to building those programs? So when we talk about the renovation of the high school, creating a makerspace, some of these other districts you're seeing on the screen, they've done that. They've increased their cost per pupil. When you look at the other districts on what kind of staffing they have that. We want to get to that. We want to actually outpace them and become the leader in Bergen County, not just a follower. So,
I would add, and I think this is wrong, this is from Lisa, this Joe. One of the things, I don't know this word.
Can't really hear you.
I think that's what you should, because then the Zoom people put this into
Okay, for the Zoomers. One of the things to note here is, we're doing more with less. I said that right? We're doing more with less. So I think that's one of the things that Robert is highlighting as well. We're doing more with less. And I think that when I looked historically at the increases in tax levy, maybe for the 10 years prior to my arrival, the increases were less than 2%, et cetera. So again, we thank the community for the support over the last 6 years in tax increases and wanting to invest in the schools. And this slide right here shows you that we are definitely doing less with more. And that, these are our illustrious board members whose vision we are attempting to implement. And with that, we'll take any additional questions.
Can I ask actually, just to go back to that graph, page 6, is it possible to get in the next presentation, maybe a pie chart and like a legend, just so we can see the actual numbers of what the breakdown would be?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Irene, can you write that down?
I just want to ask about the bathrooms. I'm not sure if Jack answers this, but I knew we had done a priority, like the ones that were the worst, and we only go to the grammar schools right now. Do we have the high school on that list somewhere?
Jack, are the high school bathrooms on our bathroom list?
They are not.
They are not.
But we're gonna like to do 2 a year. It could be on our list,
Right.
this year or next year,
Right, so I understood as you went through them all to see which ones were the worst, and that's how we kind of were trying to do 2 in the same
yes,
each school.
we do grade them.
So the high school's included in that.
It's included, but it's not schools 1 and 3, the bathrooms we're looking to replace, needed more.
Are we planning to do the high school bathrooms? Are those one of the ones that we're planning to redo? Like, is it on our list or not necessarily?
My feeling is not. We would look to redo every bathroom, but over time, make it whatever it is, a 2-year program, 3-year program.
Like I know 1 year was school 4, because they were deemed the worst at the time, so,
We'll prioritize it, absolutely.
thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Miguel, lights, please.
The floor is still yours. Is that the end of your report?
And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Well, thank you all for answering all the questions and for all your hard work on it. Do we have any committee reports?
I gotta go.
Oh, go ahead.
You wanna go first? Go ahead.
Okay. We can flip a coin.
No worries. Rock, paper, scissors.
Go ahead, MJ.
Can you guys hear me?
No. Press it down hard for Greg. Maybe give her yours, take it off, Colin. And her, there you go.
All right, so the curriculum committee met last Wednesday with Chris, Ms. Richter, Paula, Ms. Colback, and Saxu with Mr. Kravitz, and Ms. Baker and Mark Sitar, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name. He's the K-12 supervisor of math and science. And so basically the whole gist of the meeting, we spent a lot of time on discussing the middle school math course curriculum sequence. And majority of the meeting was discussed how placing students in the appropriate levels of math will benefit, all of our students, ultimately to help them, have a stronger foundation in math. So that was majority of the time we spent on that. So we're hoping to meet again, hopefully soon, to discuss other programs or to discuss like Summer Bridge Program Academy.
Thank you. Elisa?
Sure, so, two committees, met, the policy committee met on March 16th and discussed the policies that are on the agenda. In particular, we spoke about policy 5111, which is the resident, non-resident students at length, and shortly about the eye protection. The rest of the policies, Diane had actually sent a good email to us, kind of briefing us on why things are getting abolished or revised. And I don't know, Diane, if you want to speak more on some of those policies at all?
Sure. For tonight, policy 5111, eligibility of resident, non-resident students, there was a minor change that was uploaded to the public agenda. There was just a paragraph that was stricken that did not need to be in there, but the rest of the language in the policy remains the same as the policy that the policy committee agreed to. And as far as a question has come up regarding the religious beliefs and the abolishment of that policy, the reason why that policy is being abolished is because another policy, 2770, religion in schools, already covers the breadth and the language that's in that policy, so they're redundant. So Strauss Esme recommended that we abolish that policy since that language is already in an existing policy in our board-approved policies.
So we're just taking away one, but there's still one there.
Correct, and that policy, the one relating to religion in schools, it speaks to religion in the instructional program. It doesn't speak to the calendar, the district calendar, and getting those religious holidays off.
So there's no prohibition with us having religious holidays built into our calendar.
No, and students are still, you can still be excused for absences if you're absent due to a religious holiday or religious reason. That's not currently addressed in our calendar. So that's all still in place.
Are any holidays being taken away because of this?
No, not that I know of, but the calendar is, no. No holidays are being taken away.
So all the policies are on for the first read today, and obviously if there are any questions or whatever with the public or from our board members, we can discuss again before we vote on the second read.
Absolutely.
And then the finance committee also met. All the administrators were there, and actually David Gannon, who is our auditor, was there as well. We discussed the fund balance and surplus actually at length.
And there was a spreadsheet, I'm not sure if that was disseminated to the entire board, but I'll put that with my committee report so that everybody can look over it as well. And if you have any further questions from what we saw tonight regarding the budget presentation, or in conjunction to that, we reviewed the budget, which we just saw. Pending business is a review of the audit corrective action plan, which we did receive today. I don't know if everybody saw the attachment with that or not, but that was also at recommendation, in part with our auditor here. And then pending business, we still have to get a board secretary report, so perhaps in a future committee meeting, we'll get that after budget season. And then one thing I think, with strategic planning, I don't remember who was the, yeah, are you talking about that? Okay, yeah. So, just to talk about, and I guess, if I could ask for BNG as well, just to have another committee meeting if it's possible, so that, we can prioritize the AC. I mean, even though timing might not be something that people can digest. I know it does take time, obviously, to get things approved, so if we want to start prioritizing, and I know it's just planning, we were talking about that as well, so. But if we can have a follow-up committee meeting just to discuss whatever's remaining, that would be wonderful for PNG and also for finance. Yeah, thank you.
I just would like to add that the religious holidays 8810 is being abolished because it's 2270 that already covers those practices, not 2770.
Can that be written in?
Can what be written?
When we get to public comment, we'll let her address.
Sure.
I think it's already in.
I think what she's saying is, what Julie just said, we already have that policy, we have it twice, and we're taking this one away, and then 22, whatever, is still there,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
I was confused on that too.
Next time, Mike.
Are there any other committee reports? Kim?
So the strategic planning committee met last week along with Ms. Baker and Mr. Kravitz. So the strategic planning committee met last week along with Ms. Baker and Mr. Kravitz. Currently, the committee is reviewing the work that was done two years back, but it had not been completed. The committee is considering whether to pick up what was done or recommend a new company to start the process fresh. So more to come on this.
Thank you, Robert. Any other committee reports? Do board members have questions or comments on tonight's agenda or any other topic?
I thought it was just an oversight, but the agenda that I had only had one policy on it. I didn't see all these other policies. It just showed, I only knew about the reopening plan, and I had looked at my agenda the other night, so.
Reopening plan,
No, the reopening plan was on the last one. That was the mask mandate changes.
They have, that's because that's what meeting's up on my thing, okay, sorry.
So this, Candy, it's a first read, you come in, you've got like big, we'll address all the issues. Everyone will have an opportunity after tonight to comment again.
Sorry, that's what was open on
You
mine.
have a comment?
Not about the agenda, but
It can be on any topic.
I would like to just bring up that I think that the school lunches, the food needs to be evaluated and checked, because I'm hearing a lot of complaints, especially from the middle school, that it's, has declined in quality and palatability. So I think that it warrants investigating what's happened.
So we'll address that. If there's anyone out there who does have a concern about food, I would always recommend contacting the building level principal, and then they would contact us, and we'll contact the food service.
I just think it's the whole quality. I don't know if it's because of COVID or what's happening or the free lunch situation, but I think that we need to really hone in on what's happening.
You can definitely look at that. I know there's a lot of news about that. I will tell you from just my experience with food services, many of the providers will all buy from the same commissary, and then it's just how you compare it. So the food, the actual content, the portions are
regarding the agenda, I believe we're pulling, 1F and 2F.
Yes.
It's gonna do it anyway, you wanna go now?
Sure.
Say it again, Elisa?
Just one.
I'm making an administrative change in the agenda. I'm pulling 1F and 2F, administratively pulling 1F and 2F from the agenda.
And the board had a residency hearing in private session tonight, and we have a walk-in resolution. It's resolution 4B as in boy, and the resolution reads as follows. Therefore be it resolved that the Fort Lee Board of Education hereby permits the following non-resident student to continue enrollment at the Fort Lee Public Schools and waives tuition costs for the 2021 to 2022 school year, and that relates to student ID number 300-60062, school 1, grade 4 student.
And that's 4B.
4B. Do any other members have comments on tonight's agenda or any other topic? Seeing none, may I have a motion to open the floor to the public?
Motion.
Second.
Motion Morel, second Rubino. I heard a question over here?
No, I
No,
said
she
second.
said second, wrong.
Okay.
You heard me.
Motion Morel, second Rubino, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So following our normal protocol, we'll hear from any members that are physically present here tonight with us at the cafetorium. Then we'll take questions and comments from those participating remotely. When I last looked, we had approximately 62 Zoom participants. For the remote public participants, we're going to ask you to use the raised hand button in the upper left-hand corner. Our board secretary will recognize each community member in the order of the raised hands by lowering your hand and unmuting your microphone if you are muted. Please then state your name and home address for the record and begin your comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. We have some people here present tonight. Would anyone like to speak? Good evening, Tanya.
Good evening, hi, my name is Tanya Byers-King and I live at 275 Tom Hunter Road. I second that the high school and the middle school air conditioning would be great because it's needed, first of all, but the children coming from the intermediate school have had a wonderful experience. I mean, you guys like to be here, right? It's the nicest place to be. I mean, they're gonna go over there and slum it in the middle school, sweat and be nasty and stink, and they're starting to get stinkier. They really stink. So if we could get some air conditioning, that would be great. My son's gym class at the high school has 200 students in it, second period gym class. So no air conditioning in a second period gym class with 200 students could be extremely stinky. So I'm happy you explained it. I did the research today on 2270 as far as that went from the federal regulation, how it is and how it's protected, how prayer is protected, and all of the other rights that we have to practice our religions at any time. And I was a little sad because my son was very sad when a student in the district passed away, and he wanted a moment of silence. And he reached out to the administrator. And instead of it being addressed the way that it should have, and me reading that 2270 today, it made me sad. I'll just say it again, it made me sad. Because that is something to close your eyes and have a moment. He was basically denied that. Instead, he was given a psychological evaluation of if he was suicidal or not. And that's not right. That's not right. So onward we go. And I was wondering if the district could recognize the students. We want to be number one, right? So if we could recognize the students who do well, that would be wonderful. If we could recognize honor roll and high honor roll, even the basketball in town, the basketball league, girls basketball league, we give out a t-shirt to the students who made honor roll. So they have a t-shirt that they wear, and I think it would be fabulous If we were able to do that, it would be encouraging for the students. It would give them something to work towards. And I would love that. And then I'm happy the media center will be changed to the high school because I don't think the media center is used. I don't think there's many students that actually go in the media center. And then the other thing I want to say is, I said it last time, the triangle. I'm always going to listen to what everyone says, and I'm always going to listen. I'm always going to listen. So that triangle, the parents are the top of that triangle. We are that. Without the parents, there are no students. Without the parents and the caregivers, there are no students. So we have to be in that triangle. We have to have communication. We need to know what is going on with the biology class. We need to know what's going on with the Google chats. We need to know what's going on with these things. And we would appreciate it, and it would make things, it would just make everybody happier. Like, can we just be like a happy family? Like, I just like really, I think we'll all be really good because we are. We're like a wonderful town with wonderful people and wonderful things, and there's just a little couple of tweaks just to bring us all together. Mr. Kravitz is wonderful. He gets on TV, he talks, he smiles, he's great. Let's get our administrators to do that. Giacomelli did that. Giacomelli made 16 different messages that she sent out saying, hey, this is what's going on, this is how everything's going. I would love to see that with other people as well. So we feel warm and snuggly and all those kind of things. I mean, I don't need a baby bottle or anything like that, but you know what I mean. Thank you.
We do, and we appreciate your comments. Thank you. Hello.
Stephanie
Good evening,
Maharis,
Stephanie.
Fort Lee. I have some questions to ask. I'm very concerned about P2422, the comprehensive health and physical education. And I'm very concerned about all the wording of these transgender studies for middle schoolers. I think it's absolutely absurd. I'm very concerned with wording that's being used, like biological male, no, here's science, male, female. There is nothing else. There's male, there's female. Gender seems to be this new word that we want to throw around since the 90s. I don't know. I went to school in the 70s and the 80s. You know, I never heard about this. There's kindergarten written into this. So I think the parents in the district need to know that if anything is being taught that goes against their religious beliefs, they have a right to religious opt-out. That has not been made clear to parents in the district. I opted out when my children were being involved. And then parents need to know ahead of time if these subjects are going to be spoken about in a classroom. I don't think any kindergartner should be learning, I don't think anyone before puberty should be being spoken to about sexual content in school. It's absurd. We barely have English and math down. All grades across the whole United States of America have plummeted. So now we're gonna have to teach what? The accomplishments of trans people in kindergarten and middle school? That's what that data says in it, P2422. I read it, went in and looked at it. I would like some answers from the board on this before you blanketly approve something like this. I'd also like to say what Jolene touched on, which was the food. Food is a hormone and an endocrine disruptor. And right now there is a lawsuit. The EPA is being sued because this year, in 2020, the EPA decided they're gonna allow atrazine back in the United States of America. It's the #1 hormone and endocrine disruptor that we know of. In fact, all the data from University of Berkeley showed that frogs were chemically castrated, that it affects fertility of males and females. So if we are having a generation of children that are being raised on chemicals that confuse biology, why are we not addressing these things in school instead of just going along with what is now, how many children do we have who are confused at 4, 5, and 6 about their sexuality? I have grave concern for this being promoted to children. And I think that we need to talk about it as a district. I think parents need to realize that that is what is going on in comprehensive health and physical education. And I, as a parent, find it predatory. Children should not be discussing sex in a classroom with teachers before puberty. These are my beliefs, my theories. I know the board and schools may have a different, but we don't even have English, math, history down. Why are we constantly pushing sexuality on small children? It is so predatory in nature, and it's very confusing to children. So I just think, why try to expose someone to something before they're of the age to even consent, really? And when you bring up subjects that a child doesn't understand, it even confuses them more. And shouldn't this sort of conversation be had in the homes with the families? Because I feel like Fort Lee has such great families, and so many parents are very involved, and Fort Lee is very inclusionary of people, different nationalities, different race, you know, it just, Fort Lee's a kind of a melting pot. I don't think that you can blanketly advance something that in it. I also have another one last thing. They tried to lump people with disabilities with the LGBT community in the paperwork. Why was that done? It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know what that is, and I just think before a policy like one POL is signed, that parents are made aware of what's in there, because comprehensive health and physical education sounds very, sure, why not? But within that is a lot of shady wording that I think
we will certainly look at the opt-out. I can tell you that, you know, a lot of
this is
what that says in the
kindergarten,
curriculum is driven by laws that have passed, and, you know, how we approach it, you know, that's our administrators with how you do address these topics at that young age. But the board didn't decide that we're gonna take on this responsibility ourselves. You know, our legislators who we all elected made those decisions, and that's where it's driven. But I agree, there are opt-out and, you know, provisions, and maybe there's a way that.
But parents are not informed in writing. We are going to be speaking about XYZ. You have the right to opt out. 70 million, I understand, but 70 million tax dollars, is that the number I was looking at, came from us.
Yes.
A parent should know, hey, today we're gonna teach the 5-year-olds about transgender.
The curriculum is all available on our website. Now, it's dense, but the material is there for parents. And if they want to look to see what's being taught at a particular age and grade, they can. We've taken the notes, and I don't think, parents know that they are permitted to opt out of certain things.
And I don't think parents know that it's coming in.
We're gonna look at certain aspects of it, but the curriculum itself is largely driven by laws that we're trying to comply with. But we have your points.
Thank you.
Ms. Baker, you want to comment about the opt-out?
Yes, so for any type of sex education, there is a notice that goes home and it informs parents, and parents have the opportunity to opt their children out. These new standards are not going to be implemented until September, and the piece that you're talking about is not in kindergarten. It's really towards the end of grade 5. Whether or not you agree with that, I'm sure you'll share.
But the word says kindergarten. but the word says kindergarten in there.
Because there are lots of mandates in this one policy, and when we talk about curriculum, we talk about K-12 comprehensive health and physical education. But within the policy, it tells you necessarily at which grade levels things are addressed.
I understand that, but I am a female, and I am a feminist. I am for the rights of females, and females are protected, a protected class.
Yes.
And I am not gonna watch my female children having to compete in any way, shape, or form against males in a society. This is a biological, scientific thing. So I think we need to stop playing games as a society, and as parents know what they're trying to push forward to our children as young as kindergarten. That is all. That is all.
We appreciate it. Thank you, Stephanie. Anyone else here would like to speak? Okay, do we have any raised hands?
Irina Karash, I'm promoting you to panelist. Please feel free to share your video and your comment. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes. Irina.
Hi, Irina Karash, 230 Tremont Avenue. I agree with the previous speaker. I am very much against that type of education for, I don't even think a fifth grader or middle school, to be honest. And I hope when you give notice, it's not in the folder where a parent may be busy and doesn't read it and then skips it. Like, this needs to be emails discussed ahead of class. And it actually brings me to my exact conversation, which is, since the pandemic and we've moved on to more of a hybrid virtual kind of learning, as a parent, I feel sort of cut out. There are so many technical tools that are being used and are like interchanged every few months, or last year we had Seesaw, this year I think it's Think Central. As a parent, it's very hard to keep up with it, and also very hard for us to know how to utilize these tools. So as a board and whoever is the curriculum person, have you guys thought about having tutorials for parents, some kind of like a guide of these are the tools for this grade, this is where you go to learn how to see your kids' test results, how to review their result? Like, none of us know any of this. A lot of parents are busy. We don't know how to kind of go in and don't even know these resources are available. And honestly, I feel totally cut out. My other question is, the math tests for 3rd and 4th grade are being administered online. Do we all think that's the right way? I mean, when I was, and I may be aging myself, when I was in school, we were told, here's your test. If you don't know one of the questions, move on, then come back, review your work. How are kids able to do this, 9-year-olds, when they're doing all this virtually? Also, how does that help their handwriting? We all get notes back from teachers saying your kid has bad handwriting, but if they're never writing anything, that's really not giving them a lot of practice. So that's my thing. I feel like very lost in all of these applications. I think we've got like 20 of them, and we used like 15 last year, and I don't know how to navigate all of them or what's being used for what, and there's nowhere to go to get any of these how to, except for talk to other parents and hope they can guide you.
So we have a program for your children called Clever. There is a component that we actually own that will help the parents as well access all of they can consolidate all of the logons. We are working right now on putting that all together with the intent that next year when you come into school, you will have all the information, plus how-to videos on how to access, in addition to Genesis, in addition to Lincoln, in addition to Star 360, all of these programs all linked through Clever, which is the single sign-on for one set of all of the programs that we have, which is Think Central, which is the Houghton Mifflin programs. So all of that we are working on right now. As far as the testing, that's a state mandated online testing. And so I did go to school back in the day when you had to write things out. And yes, I'm a fan of handwriting, and we unfortunately still does teach handwriting. There are districts that don't. And I will tell you, I wrote a piece once about.
But they need practice.
Absolutely. In fact, you can link the cost of the occupational therapy cost to the fact that more children are not using their fine motor skills, holding a pencil or a pen, and that's why the United States is seeing more costs exposed with occupational costs than that. But that's something that, as Ms. Colbeth has alluded to, there are government mandates that we must follow, and that's the testing of that. But on a personal note, I think it's extremely important that most industrialized societies are still teaching handwriting and using a pen or a pencil.
Are you saying that the chapter tests that they take every 2 weeks or so are required by state to be online?
No, I thought you were referring to the state mandate.
No, I'm referring to the actual exams that they take during the school year.
No, they can do it online. They can do it, written, obviously on pen and paper, and obviously essays should be written. I'm a big fan of writing. because I think that's important. So yes, and Ms. Baker and I will look into that, but we definitely need to add a component if they're not doing it in all grades on that.
Okay. Yes, if you could look at it, I was more referring to math test. I'm sure some writing is still happening, but I think there should be significantly more. And as I said, for me, it's just having. I think there's a different experience when you have it on paper than you have it virtually when you're doing the test.
Agreed, absolutely.
Thank you, Irene.
All right, thank you.
Do you have any other raised hands?
Neri, I've promoted you to panelist. Please feel free to share your video and your comment. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes. Neri? Neri, you do have the floor. If there are other community
Mary,
members.
can you hear us?
I'm sorry, I had to click on unmute. Good evening. It's my first time attending this. I also agree with the lady that was speaking about
Address for us?
Excuse me? Oh, my name, I'm sorry, Neri Marte, and I need to state my address?
Yes.
Okay, 4213 Crest Lane.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm calling with an issue that I had with my daughter in her bus. She was pretty much bullied by the bus driver. I notified the school, and I feel like I'm not having any like any type of support system or anything from the school. She's still taking the same bus. She feels uncomfortable, and I feel like I'm not there was only one staff member that called me from the school. And I feel like now, instead of them even asking her any questions, they're monitoring her, making her feel more like awkward.
Yes, I actually spoke with Neri, so I'm surprised at this comment, Neri. Right, we spoke on Friday?
Yes, hi, Keisha.
Hi. So I thought we had come to a resolution, but it seems like.
Well, I did, but my daughter came to me the next day and she's telling me that she wishes that I never said anything because she feels uncomfortable now, because she's saying that, I guess, I don't know what staff member of the school called her over and started asking her if she took breakfast. And I don't see, like, why would they ask her that? And like, just the whole scenario, like, just made me feel awkward. And she's still taking the same bus. So I wanted to see if there's like any better solution to this issue with the bus, because she's still taking the same bus. I don't feel her like I paid already my fee for the bus subscription.
Okay. Maybe you call the central office tomorrow and you can speak and relate the details that took place after you spoke with Akeisha on Friday.
Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If you could contact Ms. Taylor tomorrow, you know, she can, hopefully we'll take care of that issue. We'll find out exactly what happened. And,
okay. You said to contact Taylor?
No, Ms. Taylor, she spoke to you on Friday. If not, you know, she'll be more than happy. Unless you want to say.
Okay.
Give me a call. We can revisit the situation. Okay. I do apologize. I thought that we had come to a solution on Friday. You thanked me. I told you I'd call you to monitor, so maybe something happened after that. And I think that if someone asked your daughter about breakfast, it was because I was following up to make sure that she had time to have breakfast, because I think that's one of the things that you talked about. So
yeah, but I was referring that only because the bus was taking a long time, and I initially only wanted her to get a transfer from one bus to another one. And I think that the entire school is missing the point of the issue here. My issue here was that the bus driver approached my daughter and asked her a question that he should have asked an adult, not a child who's not prepared to answer the question. And she didn't even know what was going on. That's my concern. And I feel like I don't know why is anybody asking her if she had breakfast or anything. Nobody asked her if she's okay or what happened in the bus or anything like that. And she's still taking the same bus. So this is an issue that I'm having. It's a service that I'm paying for, clearly, because I need it. but I don't feel like they should have even called her over to ask her if she has breakfast. The reason that I stated that the thing with the breakfast is because the bus was taking longer than usual. I mean, it's almost the end of the year and they changed the driver, so it's like my first issue that I've had with this bus driver.
Okay.
And I don't think that the bullying, I don't think the bullying is being handled correctly.
So Mary, we hear your complaints, and if you call Keisha tomorrow, she's telling you that she's ready to follow up and address them.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, Mary.
No problem.
Ms. Hans Silver, we're promoting you to panelist. Please feel free to share your video and your comment. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes. I do apologize. I believe you sent me an email today. I don't remember what it said.
Hello.
Hey, Esther.
Hi, everybody. Esther Hans Silver, 5th Street, Fort Lee. Actually, most of my questions are related to the budget presentation. Do you want me to just throw them all out at once or go one by one?
However you think you can use your 3 minutes most efficiently.
Sure. Okay. All right. All right. So question 1, under, I guess, revenue, tuition was, I guess last year it was 103,800. That for the upcoming one, it's put at 180. So I was curious if that is a projection or just based on what you are currently getting for tuition, you know, to reflect a more realistic number. 2, I saw that, you know, the ESSER, obviously you're not going to be getting ESSER money next year, so that went down to 0. And the surplus revenue is kind of almost the equivalent amount. So you're kind of making up the difference. So I'm kind of wondering, is that sustainable, you know, for the next few years? Under special revenue, this is all my notes because I didn't have a copy of the presentation. Under special revenue, it went from 2.64 million to about 1.3 million, but then it only showed a minus 3% change. So I didn't know, you know, where the numbers, something seems disconnected. Because if you're going from 2.6 to 1.3, that's got to be more than a minus 3. And then under the staff, related to staffing, how many of the academies that you're, you know, planning to have are going to be in district? I know there were talks about doing some things, you know, offsite with, you know, collaborations, because I noticed that there's only going to be 3 new teachers. There's only 3 new teachers in the budget. So I was kind of curious, you know, with the academies and how that would work. And I also noticed that there's no paras listed under staffing. I know every year we always end up getting more paras than anticipated. So are you expecting that to kind of stay static? That was it for my questions. And then now I just had to put in a final note because I felt it was important enough that someone else should say something, that love is love. All right. We have families in this. I'm sure we have families in this town with kids who have same-sex parents. So to make them feel unwelcome and vilified, I think is pretty ugly. I'm a parent and I'm, you know, a participant, so I can say that. I don't have to, you know, say, oh, state required. So I just wanted, I needed to say something in support of those families. And that's it. So now you can get to my questions.
Thank you.
Number 1.
Okay, so revenue tuition, yes, we are anticipating 2 things. We the board voted to increase the tuition cost, and our tuition, our non-resident students actually have increased, both in pre-K. I think we added 2 additional seats for the general education pre-K teaching program, but actually our high school and our special education programs have increased. So we are looking for that number to actually continue to grow, but that is the anticipation there.
Sustainability, I'll take a little bit of that one.
Esther was a second.
Was it Esther? There was sustainable. Sustainability.
No, it's related to like ESSER, because it looks like the loss of ESSER is made up with the surplus revenue.
So the reason ESSER, as you mentioned, isn't budgeted is because it's not new revenue. The fund balance that's budgeted, the surplus that's budgeted, really is to support new initiatives, new programs. So they're not one for one. We're not actually budgeting fund balance to account for what the ESSER funds are supporting. And although you don't see ESSER funds on the budget revenue sheet, I think Paula had asked this earlier, or another board member had asked this earlier, there are going to be, I think we have 3.6 million in our ESSER, probably 3 million of which we haven't spent. There's still some ESSER 2 monies. And so because those are new monies, are not new monies, you won't see them in the budget, but they're absolutely earmarked. And when you come see us in July and see the first July Secretary report, you'll see those funds expended as well as budgeted in the year-to-date expenditure line or the current appropriations lines. So long answer to the surplus does not replace ESSER monies. The surplus was budgeted to fund some of Robert's new initiatives and the programs. I think that.
In some of those programs, as I mentioned during the presentation, we're looking long-term to save on bringing students back, especially in the special needs programs. As far as the staffing of the academy programs, that's a conversation where most of the programs to start off will be in district. Long term, we're looking at 3 or 4 years from now as they grow to move some of them off campus, but many of them will start with basic classes here, and those will be our teachers being certified by the universities that we work with, so there's nearly no additional cost to the district. So that's how we're gonna build our program. So if a student is currently taking psychology, now they're gonna take it and they're gonna get credit at Fairleigh Dickinson or St. Peter's or William Patterson. If they're taking pre-algebra, they're gonna get credit. So that's how they build it through, and then when they're there may be 1 or 2 introductory classes in those programs, and those classes will be taught by adjunct professors from the universities who will come here and teach them. And that cost is a one-time cost.
Esther, you asked about our percentage changes. I think I quickly copied on page 5. You're right that the 21-22 appropriations, 2.6 to 1.3 is not 3%. On the revenue sources page, the first page, the difference between those special revenue sources on the first page and page 3 and page 5. Page 3 includes the budgeted amounts. And as business administrators, we are recommended to budget 80% of the current year awarded amount. So I copied, so you're right, on page 5, that percentage change is different. The special revenue listed for 21-22 on page 5 does include all of our grant funding, and so you're absolutely right that percentage is down probably 50% or something like that. I will update that. Thank you. I think those were. She had a question about paras.
The number of paras, we're updating our paras, but actually in this year's budget, we found some that we actually are not necessarily not being utilized. So if there's a chance if the students don't need them, we're not just bringing in extra people to sit in the classrooms, we need them, we'd rather spend that money on actually education programs, tutoring, and things like that. So we are going through the budget. We did go through the budget line by line to identify if they weren't being utilized right now and being used as an excess. Sometimes there were excess paraprofessionals that we were not. We actually didn't even hire because we didn't have enough staffing this year, so that position was eliminated for the upcoming year.
Okay. Thank you. I think that was it. All right. Well, if I had time, I would have printed out a rainbow flag to like smack and put in front of my face. But thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Esther. Victoria Kim, I've promoted you to panelist. Please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Victoria Kim. I live at 2190 McKay Avenue. Since we're talking about the budget, I missed the budget early on, so I have I'm not sure if it was touched or not, but I'd like to talk about the lunch program. Whether we're currently giving out free lunch. Are we giving out free lunch next year? And are we able to increase some lunch budget so that we could improve and provide better lunch for students? And because I do hear a lot of complaints for lunch elementary school, high school, middle school. So, yeah, well, I wasn't planning on speaking, so I'm not quite ready, but yeah, that's the question I have. And second, I just wanted to echo what Stephanie said earlier about the transgender teaching lessons to our students. I would like to hear more about the opt-out program options. Yeah, that's it.
So
Thank
regarding,
you.
thank you very much for the question. Regarding the free lunch, it's my understanding that the free lunch program will end for next year, so we don't, unless the federal government decides to change that. Just to make sure you're understanding how free lunches works, and Ms. Taylor can clarify it by mistake. But when you have a certain percentage of free or reduced students, those students who would qualify, those funds are then reimbursed to the district by way of federal programs. We don't have a significant number. We have a decent number, but 15%, but not a very high number. And that kind of dictates the cost of what each program. That's why you'll see, and I'm assuming this district does as well. They indicate what the free lunch would be, what the regular cost would be, the discounting rate. So we're kind of regulated with what we don't dictate the cost of the lunch. It's really dictated to us by guidelines. As far as the statement made earlier about the quality of the lunch, that's something we can look into, and we definitely will. But I will tell you some experience I've had is that many of the districts buy from the same commissary, and that's just how they prepare it is different. So if the federal government says it's 4 chicken nuggets, and this is where everyone picks it up, whether it's Pomptonian, Chartwell's, Aramark, you name it, they all pick up the same individually, portioned out 4 chicken nuggets. That's how it works, and then whether or not Chartwell's does a better job than Pomptonian or Aramark, that's up to them. But we will definitely look into the concerns that we've heard tonight from the from people regarding lunches.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
There are no more raised hands, Madam President.
May I have a motion to close the floor to the question? Motion, Sasso, second Rubino, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we'll move on to our resolutions. May I have a motion to approve items 1B through 4B?
Motion, Ramba.
Second.
Motion Ramba, second Morel, roll call please.
I'm sorry, can you repeat those?
Yes. Motion Ramba, second Rubino.
Morel.
Wasn't me.
Was it you?
Morel.
Morel.
Ms. Curry.
Yes, I abstain from my name wasn't included.
So noted. Ms. Ramba.
Yes, I also abstain from my name on 3B.
Ms. Joe.
Yes, and abstaining from my name on 3B.
Ms. Richter.
Yes.
Mr. Rubino.
Yes.
Ms. Kim.
Yes.
Ms. Stassen.
Yes.
Ms. Morel.
I abstain on 1B and my name on 3B.
So noted. Ms. Colback.
Yes, and I abstain as to my name on 3B.
So noted.
May I have a
Motion
motion to,
carries.
may I have a motion to approve items 1 CUR through 2 CUR?
Motion, Richter.
Motion Richter,
Ramba.
motion,
Richter. Ramba.
motion Richter, second Ramba. Roll call please.
Ms. Richter.
Yes.
Ms. Curry.
Yes.
Mr. Rubino.
Yes.
Ms. Kim.
Yes.
Ms. Ramba.
Yes.
Ms. Stassen.
Yes.
Ms. Joe.
Yes.
Ms. Morel.
Yes.
Ms. Colback.
Yes.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve items 1F through 16F?
Ms. Colback, we are
Yes,
administratively
we-
employing 1F and 2F.
Correct. May I have a motion to approve items 3F through 16F?
Motion.
Second.
Motion Cho, second Richter.
Ms. Joe.
Yes.
Ms. Curry.
Yes.
Ms. Morel.
I'm voting no on 8F, and I'm voting no. Yes, David.
Which one?
So
I'm
noted.
voting no on 8F.
So noted. Ms. Kim.
Yes.
Mr. Rubino.
Yes, no on 9F.
So noted. Ms. Richter.
Yes.
Ms. Stassen.
Yes.
Ms. Ramba.
Yes.
Ms. Colback?
Yes, but it's conditioned on us, as was presented, that 9F, the numbers can be adjusted before our April 25th meeting.
I'll change mine to that too.
Mr. Rubino would like to go yes on 9F
Well,
on
because we thought that the numbers were gonna stay the
As long as
same,
you
which is why I was gonna vote no on 9F as well, but we decided that now that we're moving forward and we're gonna do certain things, this is why I changed my mind.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve items 1P through 12P?
Motion. Second.
Motion Morel, second Richter, roll call, please.
Ms. Cho?
Yes.
Ms. Morel?
Yes.
Mr. Rubino?
Yes.
Ms. Ramba?
Yes.
Ms. Kim?
Yes.
Ms. Basu?
Yes.
Ms. Richter?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Colback?
Yes.
Motion carries.
May I have a motion to approve item 1POL?
Motion. Second.
Motion Morel, second Cho. Roll call, please.
Ms. Morel?
Absolutely, especially for 24-25.
Ms. Cho?
Yes.
Mr. Rubino?
Yes, but voting no on one item.
Which one?
24, 22, at a young age, I don't agree with.
So noted. Ms. Basu?
I'm voting no because I don't have enough information on several programs, the nutrition program and also the anal sex and the oral sex that I need more information on that's being taught at a young age. Thank you.
Ms. Ramba?
Yes.
Ms. Kim?
Yes.
Ms. Curry?
Yes.
Ms. Richter?
Yes.
Ms. Colback?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All of those policies will be up again for a second read, so if anyone has any specific questions as to policies and curriculum and age groups, I think you could reach out to Diane, and,
I agree with Ms. Munson. Love is love, and everybody should be accepted. And nobody should ever be segregated, because that's how bullying starts.
do we have any old business? Is there any new business?
Actually, I just wanted to mention, the BNG, I apologize, I forgot I'm not the, BNG. Chair? Yeah, I realized now. So we had met actually in November, and I saw, Candy, that you are, so if you'd like, I can tell you where we were in November, and I think a lot has changed since then, though. So if we can get an update from the BNG, I think that would be awesome. And then, secondly, regarding the food, actually, I did, get a request from the halal guys. They just opened up in Fort Lee, and I know that I had asked you, Keisha, what the process would be for a food vendor to possibly organize a day of halal, or just like we have a pizza vendor that's coming into town or whatnot. Halal might not be the answer, I'm just saying. But it seems like Pontoni is open to other food vendors or local vendors coming in and, offering a chance to support the community as well. They do have certain guidelines or whatnot, so if anybody has any other thoughts, perhaps of other vendors that might be a good complement dietary wise and meet everything that they're supposed to meet, I think it would be worth looking into.
I love falafel.
Any other new business?
I actually just want to follow up on what Elisa was saying. Is there, I know where I work, the PTAs have like parent representatives that sit on a wellness committee where they've recently visited all of the schools and gone through the cafeterias during lunch to observe and kind of taste test as well, and give their input and feedback on the, different options that are available.
I'm not so sure based on what I'm hearing, I want to volunteer.
But they also talked about, different vegan and vegetarian options and things like that as well. So I didn't know if our TAs or PTOs had anything like that.
Is that something you could take up with them and get them
Absolutely,
all
my upper
on
district, we
that?
had where they came in and did the presentations on the food, they even did, spring,
Yeah, we were there.
we had squash, in the fall, and all that.
But rather than have it like a dog and pony show where they're coming in with their finest and best, just a typical day for the parents to go in kind of like unannounced so that they see what the average is.
That's how we started October, right? They were doing their best, everything at the
Right,
convention was.
gourmet with a capital G.
I have a question based off of what Kristen said. Back in the day, the superintendent used to have superintendent meetings with the presidents and vice presidents of all the PTAs. And everything that they had, concerns about, they would meet like once a month or something, or twice, every twice a month, something like that, and come with all their concerns, and then they were addressed, like for the food or whatever concerns, curriculum, whatever, they were able to say whatever they needed on their mind.
I've had 3 meetings with PTA presidents so far.
Oh, great.
So we meet, talk.
I just didn't know if it was still going on.
Yeah,
because-
and if they bring it up, I will definitely, or we're gonna do it anyway now. It seems to be a concern that's brought to our attention, but it was never brought up to me in the meetings that I had.
And on that point, guys, if you're a liaison, well, let's hear about what's going on with your organizations and groups and see what, if there's anything to report on that front too.
Is there also a way to get a totally different topic, the staff positions on the websites by any chance? Like, I see the names and the pictures and everything like that, but sometimes I don't know who they were. Yeah, so.
So we did have an initiative at the last meeting.
Right.
There's an email sent out to the principals to start to organize so that you're seeing more pictures, right, seeing everything, it's step by step, we will have it all done. Yeah.
Anyone else with something?
I want to say something.
Okay.
I just want to say again, because I can't say it enough, how much I adore the teachers at the middle school, led by Rob Daniello, Miss Larson, Anderson, Joey and crew, Larchovich, McCardle, Yoon, all the gym and health teachers, Miss Reichertz, Miss Scheinman, Del Sarah, the aides in those rooms, Mr. Fidel, and Jerry and Raul. I cannot thank you enough for everything you do for these kids on a daily basis. If I forgot anyone, I'm sorry, but I just think it needs to be said all the time. Thank you.
Anyone else? I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion Morel, second Stasu, all in favor?
I didn't say anything, but I should have said 2 hours.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Thank you, guys.